So we've already looked at some of the basic organelles you find in a cell, and we've compared animal, plant and fungal cells. This video we're going to go into some more detail about some other organelles that are found in cells that are less common, but they still do an important function in each cell. So the first one we'll look at is these folded little structures down here that look like lots of pancakes all joined together, or like an ant nest. And there's two types of this structure. Overall, they're called the endoplasmic reticulum. One of the best names in science, I reckon. The endoplasmic reticulum. So the two different types we have are this one over here that has smooth edges, and surprisingly, it's called the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or the smooth ER for short. And its job is to make quite a few different chemicals that the cell needs. But the most important one is it makes fats and oils for the cell. Fats and oils are really important for making the cell membrane, which all cells need, and for making hormones, and for particular types of cells like fat storing cells. They'll have a really big smooth ER. The other type of endoplasmic reticulum is the one over here, which has lots of small dots on the outside. So we call that the rough ER. And those small dots are actually ribosomes that are attached to the membrane itself. So it contains ribosomes. And the job of this type of endoplasmic reticulum is to make proteins that the cell is going to export and send out to somewhere else in the body. So the ribosomes are actually making the proteins, but the rough ER provides the structure where it happens, and it makes vesicles at the end. Makes proteins to be exported. Think of it like a factory that's making materials that are going to be sent to another city or another country. Next, over at the top on the outside, we have something called a flagellum. And a flagellum, we can see it looks just like a tail, and it works like a snake's tail, really, where it flaps and moves around, and it helps the cell to move. So it allows the cell to move. And not many cells have a flagellum, but some plant cells and some animal cells, like sperm, which we find in male animals, they still have a flagellum. And a lot of protists still do, because that helps them swim through the water. Other types of single-celled organisms, though, have a structure called cilia. And these cilia are tiny little hairs, and they work similar to a flagellum. So they move in a wave-like motion, moving back and forth, and they allow the cell to move. Or they can be used to move something along the outside of a cell. So whether it's liquid or objects, the waving of the little cilia hairs can push objects along the cell. And that's actually what we have lining our esophagus, actually our windpipe, where anything that's trapped in our lungs, the cilia will carefully bring that back up so we don't get our lungs filled up with anything dangerous. Next, if we look right inside the nucleus, there's always a darker section in the nucleus, and this is called the nucleolus. And the nucleolus, it has a really important job of making ribosomes. Remember, ribosomes are needed to build all the proteins that cells need, and proteins make up pretty much all the parts of the cells. So the nucleolus, it's the ribosome factory of the cell. Looking at the nucleus, we can also see on the membrane of the nucleus, there are these small holes, and these are called nuclear pores. And just like the pores in our skin, they let chemicals go in and out of the nucleus. There's one more structure in the nucleus as well, which is just the DNA, which obviously is really important for cells. That contains all the information to tell a cell how to live. And the proper name for DNA when it's in a cell is chromatin, because it's the DNA and it's all packaged together with proteins and other chemicals. Lastly, one more structure that we find in cells is up the top here that look like little bundles of sticks. And these are called centrioles. And the centrioles are used when the cell divides to make new cells. Used in cell division. So we can see cells have lots of extra organelles, and there are still more than these that we haven't discussed yet.